Sorry, Mr. Bus Driver.
Sorry.
And now we're out of there.
Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay, so how do we can go right here? Okay, so straight over the, what's it called?
We can go over
the go-between.
Yeah.
We'll go over the go-between.
So you have to remortgage your house though, don't
You
you? When you go over the go-between.
It's not a cheap bridge,
Sell a kidney.
Considering the size of it,
You've got to sell your kidney, you've got to do your remortgage of your house, but it's okay, we can cross the bridge.
But we can cross the bridge.
We can cross the bridge.
Let's cross the bridge.
We're going over to the other side.
To
you know
the other
that
side,
now.
yes. Well, I'm a South Side boy. Now, your accent says to me that you're not really a South Side girl.
No.
But, so, how about, shall we get started?
Let's get started.
Let's get started. Okay.
I'm going to hang a left down here.
I'm going to hang a left?
Yes,
Okay.
to stand there. See, always be with the local. We'll teach
Okay.
you the secret ways. That's the long way.
Oh, okay.
That's
Fair
the
enough.
tourists around here. That's the way they go.
They go that way. Okay. Well, we'll go this way. And
Well, head out to
I think
Vancouver.
it's looking like you're right. Okay. So, welcome. This is me talking to the people who are watching us, okay?
Hi, everybody.
Welcome. Welcome to Hypnosis in Action. My name is Stephen Anderson, and we are going Smartie trekking. And the big blue things on the road there, they're the ones I guess I'm going to follow.
I would go the GBB.
The GBB? We'll
I
go
would
the
go
G.
there.
We will go the GBB.
And just have your wallet open when you go across.
I'll have.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those that are not in Brisbane, we have
Yeah.
very expensive tolls
They,
here.
do you think they're more expensive than anywhere else?
Depends on where you've lived.
well, I
I've lived in
suppose-
8 countries.
Okay. Ooh, okay, we're
I
going to
know.
talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
Okay.
you travel a lot, then they're not great. But anyway, it's beautiful because we're going to Mount Cootha and it's worth it.
And you like Mount Cootha? Oh,
Mount
even on a
Cootha.
day like today,
Heck
when it's raining and miserable out, and you probably won't be able to see the view.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter
Yeah?
about the view, it's the journey.
It's the journey.
It's the journey.
Okay.
It's the torture, the slipping down the
Okay.
rocks, they're getting back
Right.
up again.
Okay.
Falling down, they're getting back up. That's why my legs are covered. I'm not going to show my legs to everybody, but you can see my legs are covered in scratches. I climbed Mount Cootha. I climbed Mount Barney last weekend.
Oh, did you?
Covered. There we go. There's $500 just gone.
$500.
That's the beat. That's the
Bang.
$500
That's it.
go via
Gone.
beat.
Go via. I don't think it's $500, but it's not cheap. What is it? It's about $3.50.
Oh, I think it's about $3.50. I joke.
Which is ridiculous for
It's-
the length of this.
It's 100
You know.
meters. This is where I run across as well, so it's literally 100
Do you get
meters.
a toll for running across it?
No, thank goodness.
No?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm
I've-
sure that's next though.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll find a way of
Yeah.
tolling for runners as well. We may get doubled. If you're a cyclist, you get treble
You're one
time.
of those, aren't you? You're one of those that just don't stop talking. Can you stop talking for a minute so I can introduce you? Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm not going to speak.
This is Belinda Jane. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Belinda Jane, you were sitting there because someone. Hang on, I've got to check the lights. Because someone who sat in
green.
that seat. Is it green?
We're green.
It's green.
Yeah, we'll go.
Okay. Someone who sat in that seat believes you are a pretty impressive person. Okay. And I'm here to find out if that's true. Well, I'm not, because I just believe. Lauren Clement said that to me.
Yes, it was definitely the lovely Lauren. Thank you, Lauren. Hi.
So I'm here to have a chat to you because I believe that all people, hypnotise themselves every day. But most of us hypnotise ourselves the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to ask you what you think I mean by that, because I get the feeling that some people get lost when I say that.
Yeah. Look, I think I absolutely hear what you say. We get stuck in our own heads. You know, daily life takes over, the daily grind of life takes over, and we tell ourselves particular stories and particular things about ourselves, that self-doubt, that nagging, that imposter syndrome, and that kicks in. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that is daily life, and that's my interpretation
Yep.
of what you're saying.
Okay.
And that's a lot of the work that we do. That's what we find with people. They get so stuck. They know what they need and want, but they often don't know how to get there. So absolutely, we get so stuck, and we tell ourselves our story, and sometimes it's not the right story that we're telling ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's pretty much exactly what I was meaning.
And we didn't rehearse that, did we?
We did not
There's
rehearse
no
that.
take 2 on this. This is take 1.
You would not believe how little editing I do. Like none. None. Because
I hope you
it's
may edit
hard.
out the spilled coffee.
No, well, actually, the cameras weren't running when the coffee spilled.
There we
but
go.
we do still have the aroma of it
That's
wafting
beautiful.
throughout the vehicle. Belinda bought me a coffee today, so if I'm sipping on coffee through the turn right.
Turn right, yes.
Okay. So if I'm sipping on coffee and driving with one hand while talking and filming while driving,
And I'm not going
that's
to allow
your
you
fault.
to.
You're not.
No,
Okay.
we're only because we're at the red lights. That's we'll get in trouble. Don't
Okay.
want you losing your license.
Good as done. So
I should have brought you a straw.
I just couldn't imagine drinking coffee through a store.
Remind me to tell you about Ramadan. That's a whole other story. When I
Right.
lived in the Middle East, and we have to drink through straws so that you couldn't be seen because you can't drink. You can't
Oh.
drink during Ramadan. So there's no.
We will speak about that.
Because that's
we
a
will
fun
speak about
story.
that for sure. But before we do, let's hear a little bit about you. Starting with, what did your parents do? And
Yeah.
what did that have to do with who you are today?
God, that's a great question. I love that one. Well, they were both incredibly hard workers. That's one thing I
Right.
will say about my parents. God rest their souls, they're not with us. I lost them at a very, very young age, actually. So in terms of what they did, my father had his own business. He was a grafter. The word grafter, I think, is a good word.
I
So
think
he
it's a
was
great word. What does
Yeah.
grafter mean? What is that?
They work hard. He did.
Ah, right, so-
he did labouring. He did carpentry. He worked with his hands. He was a kinesthetic. He was an amazing guy. Actually, he taught me a lot about what hard work really is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not suggesting that everybody has to go out and build buildings and chip away at wood, but it taught me that you sometimes have to do the hard stuff, the things that you may not necessarily want to do, but you have to do the hard stuff sometimes to get what you want in life. My mum was the most amazing woman. If she could sit here now, you would absolutely adore her. My mum Jackie, she did lots of different things. She had a lot of different jobs. She was actually a counsellor in the end.
Right.
Just before she got very sick, she was a counsellor. But she worked, and when I say her fingers to the bone, I'm going to tell the listeners a little story. She used to do whatever, obviously, work to keep. There was 3 sisters, and we didn't have a privileged background, and she worked hard. And I recall one day going downstairs, and there was some event happening, and Stephen, I can't remember what the event was, I'm sorry, but it was some event happening. We needed extra money as a family. And I remember going downstairs, it was the middle of the night, and she was on a home sewing machine. So she had a day job, and she was studying as well. So she was at college studying, and then she eventually went to study higher studies. And I went down there, and her hands were bleeding.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, I asked her, what are you doing? And she said, you know, we've got this coming up, or there was something coming up. And so she said, I've taken on this extra work. And so she was actually sewing from home. She was sewing pillowcases, of all things. And the fabric was really tough. It was very harsh fabric. And she had to sew them and then turn them inside out. So my sisters and I, when we realised she was doing this, because all the things had been delivered and we weren't there, we were at school, when we realised she was doing this, we decided that we were going to put ourselves with her at night or in the mornings or whenever we could, and she was going to sew them and we were going to turn them inside out for her, because I never ever wanted my mum's hands to bleed again.
Oh, wow.
So I think when you ask what they do, and my goodness, I actually have never told that story before, but that's what makes us who we are. It's, you know, some of the struggles, and same as my father, my mother didn't want to be sewing. She was an amazing woman. We nicknamed her Mother Teresa.
Right.
She's literally Mother Teresa. And she passed away. There was no room in the church. There was people outside.
Oh, isn't that fabulous?
Just an amazing woman. So, you know, our foundations, and it doesn't matter what you've been through, because we went through some horrible times when we were younger, but it doesn't matter what life throws at you. It's how you deal with those. It's your coping strategies that you've got, and it's what it teaches you. It's the lessons it teaches you in life. So that taught me a lot. So both of my parents were very hardworking, in summary, but they also made me who I am today. So I'm incredibly blessed.
Who are you today?
Someone who's currently driving around in a little Smartie car having an interview. My technical title is the CEO of Clariti Group, but who I really am is I'm someone fierce and determined to make a difference in the world. We have a pact, my colleague and I, Anna Tonkin, and she'll be listening, so hi Anna as well. We're going to positively impact the lives of 1,000,001 people globally. It's a big mission. We're doing that through the work we do, and we do a lot of charity work as well. But we believe that everybody can make a difference. Everybody has this untapped potential, and everybody can have the most amazing life. But we've got to tap into it, and not everybody knows how to do that.
That's true.
So, and it's part of what you're doing also as well, is by doing the amazing work that you're doing, you're changing lives. We all do it little by little, like a ripple effect.
Like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Cool. So, how did you get to be the person you are right
now? Through a lot of falling.
A lot of falling?
A lot of falling.
Tell me about the first time.
I think one of the first times, and I've actually only just started speaking about it recently, I was actually born disabled.
Right.
So I'm a mountaineer, I'm about to climb Everest, and I was born disabled. I was told I would never walk properly again. So when people ask, that question's a great one.
Stop, sorry. I was told I would never walk properly again.
Correct, yes.
Is that, are we hinting towards a past life thing there, or not?
I was born with bilateral telepathy feet.
Right.
So when I was born, at the time they had surgery, but it was very limited surgery. So it wasn't the surgery now they have, my goodness, it's phenomenal. Like, it's a small surgery now compared to when I was younger. So at the age, at birth, they had to go through and do all the surgery and physio, which broke my mum and dad's heart, because they had to do physio on me 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. And unfortunately it didn't correct it, so I then had to go for surgery. And I recalled the doctor, and Lauren and I were talking about this not long ago, in fact, and that was one of the defining moments for me. Is I think I was about, age-wise, I'm not 100% sure, maybe 9 or 10, but I'd had the surgery, and it hadn't gone very well, and then some parts had gone quite well, and the surgeon turned around to me and said, "You'll have to look at modifying your life, Belinda, because you may never walk properly again."
Right.
And I remember thinking, heck no. Nobody tells me no.
Yep.
Because that to me is admitting defeat. And even if I can't walk properly again, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to do every single thing in my power to make a difference, and not just to my life, but I thought, well, the reality is I can't walk, but what's that going to do if I can't walk? I can't do anything then. I won't be able to help other people and do other things. And I remember saying, nope, it's all in my mind. I think that's what started me off on the neuroscience journey, maybe as well, being at that young age, thinking, no, it's all in the mind. So when you talk about, your initial question was what got me to where I am, it's lots of falling. I joked with a colleague about this, because we were just saying I can't actually believe it, but I used to shuffle around on my hands and knees and on my bottom because I had calipers on. So calipers, for those who are getting charts, maybe Google it, calipers fix both of your feet in a fixed position, and then you have bars across them, because that's how they used to treat it years ago. So, and we're actually at Mount Cooper now as well, which is really beautiful.
Which is beautiful.
It's absolutely gorgeous around here. For anybody that's listening, and have a look at Mount Cooper, because it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of our beautiful regions in Brisbane. If you ever get a chance, come up here. So yeah, I think many times fallen. I had a tough childhood, like most people. Not everybody's had it easy. We've all got our stories, and I think that's the thing you talked about initially as well, is the stories we tell ourselves. We can turn tragedy and loss and pain and suffering, whatever's happened in our journeys, we can turn it around and use it to our advantage. I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for my journey. I wouldn't be sat here now talking to you. I wouldn't have the privilege and being able to talk to people about the story if it wasn't for what happened. So that was the first one, and then just having some pretty tough times. Being younger, it wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't an easy time. So we're actually writing. You've been up here recently?
I've been up.
It's
it's a couple of years ago now. I was just trying to find somewhere where we could actually have the vehicle where we could, but we can't see anything.
No,
There's
I don't
nothing
think-
out there,
no.
is there?
We get
It's
like
just
2 days of rain a
Yeah,
year.
that's it. And today's the
And
day.
today's one of
Yeah.
them.
That's it.
So yeah, I think, you know, that was one of the falls. I judge it by, it's not how you fall, it's how you actually get back up again after the fall. So that was one of them. And then having a really bad car accident. In fact, when I was about 16, and we were hit by an articulated lorry, a very large lorry, and I was actually dragged from the car. Thank goodness I survived. The petrol tank had ruptured, and even the police and ambulance said, we don't understand how the car did not go up in flames with me in it. Nobody could explain it. There was gasoline or petrol, everywhere. If you want to go somewhere very cool, we can go across the roundabout.
Let's do
and
that.
just go up and over as
Okay.
well. It's beautiful down here. So yeah, I think that was another defining moment. Obviously there's many more, but I don't want to bore people with them. But having that accident, and then again, they thought I'd broken my neck, and I was a sports person. I've been sporty since I was able to walk. So having that, someone say, look, we think your neck may be broken. We have to take you for scans and all of those other things. So there was a period of 24 hours because I was quite badly injured, so they couldn't send me straight away in for x-rays and CT scans, and so they had to stabilise me.
Yep.
So that had to go on it was about 24 hours. So for 24 hours I was lying flat with all the brace on, and having to see my mom. I never forget my mom's face, God love her. She came into the hospital, and they gave her, the first thing they didn't actually say she's in the room here. They gave her a black bag with all the clothes in from the crash.
Oh.
So she didn't know whether they said I was just being taken. Somebody had contacted my mom. Well, my mom and dad came down, but they had to drive quite a way. It was a good few hours to drive. And she opened the bag, and she said all your clothes were there with glass and blood, and she said it was the most horrific experience of her life, because at that point she wasn't sure how badly injured I was. So all they did is when they walked in, they said, oh, we'll show you through, and they just gave her a black bag with clothes in it. So my poor mom didn't know what was going on.
No.
You know, she eventually they showed her through, and at that point I was conscious, I think, at that point, and I was able to talk to her. But you know, talk about that initial shock for her. So I think that was most probably the second, and again there's many more in the journey in between, and there's so many, you know, we all have, you know, some great things that happen, but also some challenges. And then I think the third, and I suppose the final one, would be losing my mom, losing her to breast cancer. An angel in heaven, she's an absolutely amazing woman. I think seeing what life can throw at people and realising that you only have one life, and it's precious, and it's incredibly, incredibly precious. So it doesn't matter what keeps getting thrown at you, you've got to keep getting back up again. And that's the analogy I use for, you know, mountaineering. We fall down a lot, but you've got to keep going back up again. And she fought for 3 years. She was in her 40s, early 40s when she had cancer, and she was the most courageous, incredible, beautiful woman. Nothing, you know, she had a very, very, it was a very severe form of breast cancer, and it took her quite badly, but she still smiled. You know, I smile now thinking of her, because the courage and the tenacity and the drive that she had, and she never once complained. She was planning her own funeral with her own songs, and she was still strong and determined. And I just think, wow, you know, if she can do that, then, you know, then we've all got to really live this amazing life that we're given, because it's precious.
So if she can do that, then we've all got to live this amazing life.
Yeah.
It's sounding to me like you're having a pretty good go at it.
Oh, I tell you what,
Lived
I'm
in 8
doing my
countries.
absolute, I'm doing my best.
Lived in 8 countries.
Yes, correct.
Tell me about that.
Oh my goodness, lived pretty much around the world. So lived in beautiful New Zealand, where my sister is, my Kiwi sister. Obviously with my accent. I've lived in England, the US. I spent a little bit of time in the US. Lived in Qatar, Oman, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Istanbul, and always come back home. You know, Australia's home, so I've lived between them, and just had the most incredible experiences, and I always say yes. Not say yes to everything, but if something scares me, I jump and I say yes. And living in Abu Dhabi, 10, 12, 13 years ago now, it was scary. It was, I recall somebody saying, where are you going to live, Belinda? I said, oh, Abu Dhabi. And they said, where's that? And I said, oh, it's in the Middle East. And they said, oh, isn't Bin Laden over there? And all of these other things. I remember thinking, well, yeah.
Actually, now that you mention it.
He is, but he's actually nowhere near where I'm going to be living. But it was interesting, the perception, and and that was a very educated person. You've got to be careful with all the terrorism and all the things happening over there. And it was fascinating hearing people's perception. Do you have to be covered, for example? And they talked a lot about all the terrible things that are going on over there. But also, it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, living in the Middle East, and the culture and the language, and learning Arabic, and learning about the religion, and finding out what the Middle East is truly about, rather than what the press tells us it's about. So lived an amazingly full life over there as well, and it teaches you so much about people.
Okay, so what does it teach you about people?
Tolerance.
But you've got to go further than that. Yeah.
Living in the Middle East, you're surrounded by hundreds of different cultures, religions, nationalities. You have people that are from developing countries that have nothing, Stephen. They have, they're on minimal wage. There's some not very good things that happen over there as well. But they come from nothing. Some people they live on below $1 a day, way below $1 a day. Some of the people that I met and that I was honoured enough to meet and spend time with. And when I say tolerance, everybody's got their own story, they've got their own journey, and being over there taught me patience, it taught me tolerance. I was working with people that didn't speak English, for example, and now when I say didn't speak English, you could almost argue, well, I didn't speak their language. Yeah. I didn't speak Pashto, and I did speak Arabic in the end. I taught myself Arabic and went to school there to learn, but it teaches you that people have had their own journeys. Their journeys are not right or wrong or better or worse, but we've all got our own Everest to climb. And some of those people that were over there had a tough gig. They really did. The living conditions, and you see some terrible things over there, and you hear some terrible things as well. But what it teaches you is that we've all got this, and I talked about it before, is that potential to be incredibly amazing, and often we just don't get the opportunity. And I think by being over there, it's almost like a period of enlightenment, I suppose, because you just realise the stories that people have got. Can you imagine taking your car over there and driving around and just speaking to some of the people from Afghanistan that have escaped some of the things happening over there? And
one of the most fabulous conversations I've had recently was an Uber driver who took me from the airport, and there's a long story, but I was only going to be in the Uber for 10 minutes to get me to a train station. He was a refugee from Syria.
Oh my gosh, wow.
With one bung leg, and after 5 minutes chatting, I said, no, take me all the way home. So an hour and 10 minutes later, we're home, but just the difference in their attitudes, in the way they believe, the way they live life, it is phenomenal. Yeah. And yes, that one I didn't get on camera, and God, I wish I had. Yeah.
The stories are just amazing, and it teaches you, resilience and tolerance and patience, and there's so many things. And I think it was insightful. I would never change it for the world. Some of the stories and things that happened over there, not.
How long did you spend there?
Oh gosh, I was over in about 4 or 5 years in total. Okay. That was in Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Al Ain. I was in a beautiful region in Al Ain. That was amazing. It was mostly local Emiratis, and we were welcomed with.
What does that word mean?
Emirati, so that's the Emirates. So it's the, I suppose, the indigenous people.
Okay.
So they're only a very small percentage of the population. You can keep carrying on up here as well. It just goes up to a car park at the top. It's such a shame. Hopefully people can see outside.
They can't today. That camera's not working. Yeah.
Darn, that would be beautiful because it really is absolutely breathtaking around here. So the indigenous people, the nationals, the locals, and it was amazing the attitudes that people have over there. Obviously a lot of them are very wealthy, incredibly wealthy. They have particular things where they're gifted land over there as well. So they have a very different way of working than we have over here in Australia. But some of the most beautiful people I've met, they welcomed. I remember being invited to an Emirati wedding. Millions of dollars they spent on this wedding. They brought out, they said, they always call you Miss. So they said, Miss Belinda, come. So I had my Shayla and abaya on, so I had my head covered and my arms covered. They said, come with us. And they put henna on my hands and they said, come, you must come over to the table and come and meet people. So I said, oh, I'd love to. Come and sit, have food with us. So I was vegetarian at a wedding over there. Not good. So the next thing is, I saw them bring out, there was 12 people, I'll never forget this, 12 people carrying a silver tray. So there were 4 on one side, 5 on one side, 5 on the other, so that was 10, and then they had 1 or 2, I think on either side, at the front of the tray. They were carrying a whole sheep.
Okay. How did the vegetarians feel about that? Well,
this is the thing, and it was on a bed of rice. So we had a sheep. Now, bear in mind, it wasn't a tiny little lamb. It was ginormous. And they're carrying it out, and obviously, respect-wise, I wouldn't have shown my horror, but it was the horror of seeing all these juices dripping down onto the rice that they were just about to serve me. But again, culturally inappropriate to say anything. So they said, please eat with us. And they started to serve me, and it was so beautiful to be served by a local person there, that they took me on board as part of their family, and they took their hands and they served me. They were at this $1 million wedding, and they served me rice with their hands onto my plate, and that's like a sign of respect to do that they were serving me. I was their guest. Yet this lady, she must have been 70, maybe more. She was like a grandma figure. She served me, and that will always stay with me, to think, my goodness, I was a guest in their country, yet she stood there, a very wealthy, very beautiful, very traditional woman, and she served me the rice and obviously I couldn't say no, but there was a very large lamb dripping down onto the rice. But it was, those types of memories do stay with you, and and to be privileged and honoured to have that. And there's, as I say, there's some not so good things, but there's also some beautiful things. But it's the stories that you'll have heard when you spoke to the gentleman from, from Syria. There were lots of people there that were over from Iraq, for example, or Iran, where they'd had a lot of civil conflict, and you hear their stories. Some of them, I won't talk about, but there are some amazing stories where people have escaped, death, basically. Some were going to be taken away for their religious beliefs, and so they moved countries. So the stories are just incredible. The rich tapestry of life that we're absolutely blessed to be part of. So yeah, it was an interesting time. You would have loved it. You would have loved it. You would have not had enough video to be able to speak to people. My goodness, yeah, absolutely. So good times.
Good times.
Really good times, yeah.
What else?
So they're the countries, I suppose, and the experience. I ran a facility over there. I worked in strategic planning and operational effectiveness, and I also was asked, had the honour to run an education facility over there for young women, the first of its kind.
I was going to say.
First of its kind.
Normal.
they're going to be the doctors, the scientists and engineers of the future. And I was asked to run it. I think back now and think, wow, that changed lives. These young women, very, very empowered, some of them, by the way. I've got to be very, very clear on that. Even a long, long time ago when I was over there, some of them were incredibly empowered, but a lot of them weren't. And we had to battle to get some of the children, and when I say young women, they weren't really children, actually into the facility, into the school, because a lot of parents, particularly fathers, they didn't want their young women there because they were concerned about how that would, because Islam is very strong over there, and I won't go into the religious side, but again, often what we see on the press and what we're fed by Western media isn't necessarily always correct. But the parents are just like most parents. They worry about their children over there. And education was, for some families, key. It was the number one. You have to be educated. But for some families it wasn't. And women weren't supposed to be educated. Women are not educated. It's not the thing to do. So we battled on a regular basis to try and get these young women into these programs. So we were teaching them AI, so artificial intelligence, many, many years ago. We were teaching them, but eventually they brought in military skills as well. So I remember having a line of, so everybody's very well connected for example, to the sheikhs and to the royal family over there. So when I did something wrong, which was generally me speaking up for these women and trying to give them the best opportunity, I was very vocal. Funnily enough, I know.
It's surprising.
But left to feel that way, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But I was respectfully and culturally and religiously vocal, but I wanted to make sure that they got the best opportunity, and it meant that sometimes some voices had to be louder than others because some of the young women couldn't speak up for themselves. They weren't allowed to. So they'd come to me and they'd knock on my door, and I had an office that was the size of a small African nation. I kept telling them, please move me. Like, it's a really big office, I don't need this. So they'd knock on my door, which was like from here to the end of the street where we're looking now, and it was a really big office, and they'd knock and they'd say, Miss, can we talk to you? They'd come and say, Miss, we really want to do this, or is there something else, can we do this? Or so I had to be very, very careful and toe the line, but I also fought their corner for them. So when we did, for example, they brought in military, like an inscription, not for the girls, for the boys initially, but they wanted to bring in military skills for girls. Now look, some of you may be listening and thinking, not sure if I believe that.
I'm trying to understand what you classify as military skills.
So they had...
We're like shooting weapons, planting landmines.
No, not that. It was military drills and skills that they had, so it was very much around the fitness aspect of it.
Right.
But they did they weren't real weapons, but they did have weapons training was part of it, but the girls didn't do that. But they did, they did all the fitness around it, and it wasn't about the military skills. This is what, when I say about the funny story about the families who came to collect their children when they found out what the girls were doing, it wasn't about fighting and weapons and all of those things. It was about discipline. And that's something that I'm a huge believer in. We talk about rituals and routines and discipline. The difference between those succeed and those that don't is discipline. And I'm a huge believer in discipline. And that's what it taught the girls. So by putting these skills in, it wasn't about firing a weapon. It wasn't about, going on the battlefield. It was nothing to do with that. It was just a way of putting military style fitness into the curriculum. Okay. So when the parents found out, we had to send them all letters and we had to have meetings with them. But not all parents. Some parents are absent. Some parents are not connected to the facility, and some were. Well, when they found out, the word got around, and it was a very, very traditional area that I lived in our lane, very traditional. When the word got out, it was that the girls were firing weapons and doing military and these guns. There was nothing to do with that. It was just military fitness. But the problem was, it's like Chinese whispers. And you know, the story got contorted. So we had lines of BMWs and Porsches and Land Rovers, lines of them, 20, 30, 40, 50 cars outside, ready to pick the girls up, saying that's it, we're removing them. So it became a bit of a diplomatic incident, which hopefully myself and the team were able to appease people, because it wasn't what it actually sounded like. You know, they'd had this story of what was actually happening, but it wasn't that. So, you know, going back to the point about it was about bringing this really amazing variety and insight to these young girls' lives that they would never have had before. But unfortunately, we came up against a lot of opposition. It was there was a lot of tough times over there as well, and obviously being a Western female over there, my voice was heard in some aspects, but not in others. So it's, again, when you talk about the lessons about tolerance and patience, and you know, as an equity feminist, it's pretty hard, because I really wanted to say, actually, you need to listen to these young women, and you need to listen to what they've got to say, and you know, they're incredible women. I saw some of them graduate many years ago, and you know, some have gone on to be doctors, some have gone on to be engineers, pilots, scientists, and that is incredible to know that the team, because it was a huge team effort for the short space of time that I was there, it changed lives, and that is remarkable. You know, the foresight that the sheikhs had over there, to be able to give people the opportunity. It's not a female thing now, but to give people the opportunity when they had opposition from people. You know, some of them didn't think that girls should be doing this education. They didn't think that boys, by the way, should be doing this type of education. So it wasn't just a gender thing, because it was a new form of education system. And now you've got, you know, some of these amazing young women that really wouldn't have had that opportunity, had that facility not been available. So yeah, very blessed.
And the school's continued?
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Excellent.
And it's the second largest education organisation in the UAE, so the United Arab Emirates. And there's some remarkable people that I've known, and I'm still in touch with some people over there as well. Some of them stayed, and some of them left and went on their own journey. So interesting what life, you know, you're a part of the many amazing things that happens in life, and that was definitely a highlight.
Wow. Okay, so
that went off on a very different tangent.
It did a little, but no, it didn't. So we've reached the point in the show where I would normally and will normally turn and say what I see you are doing, that is basically hypnotising yourself every day to be the person you are. Okay? And normally I can pick out a phrase or two or three that you say that highlights the positive side of you that's a firm belief. Just about everything you say is a positive side of you. You have such an incredible belief in yourself that everything is, how can I put it, from when you were 9 years old and saying, buggy you, doctor.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna walk to, you know, to so many things that you said. Positive beliefs, positive things that are just perfect, just sensationally perfect. And I don't know what more to say. I'd love to drag out a phrase, and that's what I try and do. I can't. It's not there. But everything about you is positive, and you are definitely the perfect person to be sitting in that seat. So we've now reached a fork in the road, and I guarantee you I know which side of the fork you're going to take, because I speak with a lot of young ladies, sensational young women who are at the beginning of a path that they're heading down, and I say to them, I offer them this thought: if there is something in you that you're not really happy with, you and I can work on that right now while we continue our chat. Or the other side of the fork is we just continue on with what we're doing, okay? And it's interesting that if I have a lady sitting beside me, often they'll say, yes, there's this, and we do a bit of hypnosis, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
Run through a process or two to make it better.
Yeah.
If there's a gentleman sitting there, oh no, I'm cool. They just never admit to needing anything. So there's that thought. Is there something you'd like to work on with me hypnotically, or shall we just keep talking?
I think my answer would be both.
Both?
Yes.
Oh.
Because I think there's an element of absolutely, there's always something we need to work on. There's
Very good.
nobody in the world that doesn't have something they need to work on. But there's another element, and I think it's the selfish side of me, that I also want to know more about what you do. So there's a part of me.
Are you switching this interview here?
I know, but there's a little bit of an element. So I've got to be really careful here, because an element of me wants to know so much more, because I love what you do. And, you know, I love the process of being able to influence, as you are doing, through this journey, and the fact that you've done something totally different. But I don't want to hijack. I don't want to hijack, and I know that you have your things that you need to do. So I'm happy to carry on the conversation and do the whole, what did you say, the man thing?
The man thing?
I'm
You can
fine.
do the man thing?
I'm
Yep.
fine. But I'm also, of course, I would love to work on. There's a million and one things I'd love to work on. Hypnotise me.
Okay. Let's first find out what's something that you think you'd like to work on. What's something that isn't perfect that you'd like to make that way?
My goodness. I would say doing more of what I do and stop holding back. I
Okay.
do this for a living.
Yeah.
This is what we do for a living.
Can
We
you
work with
explain to me holding back?
So, this one's just
That one's. Do you want to find the camera, and we'll start it up again,
Yeah.
and we'll
Sure.
perhaps and just press that, and that's,
Is that it?
and I'll see if I can
think-
add it in
I
later.
think-
Yeah. Okay. So when you say holding back, describe that to me.
So we all have an element, as you know, with the brain. You know, we have elements where our reptilian brain kicks in,
Can
and
I
we
ask
hold
you
back.
not to describe it in general? Describe it as it refers to you.
To me, okay. So holding back, knowing that everything I do, I go 3, 2, 1, jump, do it.
Right.
But there's sometimes I hesitate. And even though I do this for a living, and I know I shouldn't hesitate, I'd love to be able to just be more, jump more,
Jump more.
jump more,
Okay.
and just not be afraid.
Right. Cool.
You know, I say I'm not afraid, and 99.9% of the time I'm not. But wouldn't it be great to be 100% not afraid to jump? That would be
100%
amazing.
not afraid to jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just jump, and you don't hold back, and you're not afraid of what others may think or your impact upon others.
Okay. When was the last time you went 1, 2, 3, oops, and stopped?
Every day.
Give me the last time.
Catching up with you. Because I'm thinking, I hope I can add enough value to
Right,
people.
okay.
Because everything I want to do
But you
is add
did
value.
jump. You did catch
Heck
up with
yes,
me.
I
Okay.
did.
So when was the last time you didn't?
When I didn't. Oh, okay. I've got a good one.
Okay.
So I'm doing Everest. I'm doing the 7 summits. And from a work perspective, I had to pull back on a mountain recently.
Right.
I was going to be doing Choyu, which is a just over 8,000 metre peak, just facing out Everest, and I had to pull back.
Okay.
And I 1, 2, 3 jump. I'm doing it, and then for a number of different reasons, I had to pull back.
Okay. So again, that's not a 1, 2, 3 jump and I'm doing it. That's okay. When I look logically at it, the right thing to do is that right?
A little bit of that, yeah.
Or was it, no, I'm going to back out?
It's not so much backing out. I think it was more of a, is this the right decision right now?
Okay. So which was it?
It wasn't the right decision right now.
It wasn't the right decision not to go?
It wasn't the right decision to decide.
Okay, so does
Yeah.
that fit with what we were talking about a few moments ago?
Yes. I think there's an element of holding back.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I think
Okay,
there's an element of
then
holding back,
what
yeah.
we want to do is we want to go back to that point.
Okay.
The point where you went, stop.
Okay, yep.
Okay, now, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, and where are you? Inside or outside?
I'm inside.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Alone or
inside.
with someone?
No, I'm alone on this occasion. Yep.
Okay.
I'm alone. Yep.
Okay. And standing or sitting?
I'm standing.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on the
And
phone.
on the phone?
I'm on the phone,
Okay.
randomly, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Now, at that split second that decision was made, search your body and tell me what you feel.
Oh, it's not comfortable.
Okay, where?
Everywhere.
Pick a
Yeah.
spot.
I'm going to say stomach.
Stomach, okay.
Yeah, it didn't feel like
So-
it's that
so-
limbic brain.
So
yeah.
you're there now, on the
Yeah.
phone, standing, and there's something about your stomach. Can you feel it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Same
Size?
feeling right now.
How size? How big?
Oh, it's a knot.
It's a knot?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a knot.
Got
and-
exactly the same feeling right now.
Excellent. And how large is it?
Oh, it's big.
It's a big, and it's a
Yeah.
big knot. Does it have a
Yeah.
colour?
Red.
Red, big red knot in your
Yeah.
stomach right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not a comfortable feeling.
Oh gosh, no.
And it's
No.
something that will stop you doing what you need to do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's a
what would you
blockage.
need to do to fix that? That big red knot.
I've got to untangle it.
Okay. So can you do me a favour?
Yes.
Close your eyes and untangle it.
I'm physically actually taking it apart and untangling it.
Right now?
Yes.
Cool.
It's like a jigsaw. It's like a spaghetti jigsaw.
Okay.
'Cause it's a bit of a mess that needs
Okay.
untangling. It's like one of those infinity loops. So I'm having to untangle it as I'm going,
Yep.
and it's very knotted.
Okay. And as you untangle it, what's happening to the colour?
It's going lighter. It's pink.
It's pink.
It's gone from red to pink. Well, it actually went red, orange, then pink.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going in phases and it's getting whiter as I'm
Mhm.
untangling more and more, which is, yeah. It's getting easier to untangle it.
And is it untangled?
Yeah, it is.
Completely?
Yeah, there's a little bit still left
Right.
on the
Okay, so
left-hand side.
Fix that.
I've got to fix it, okay, yeah. This one, the pieces are smaller.
Okay.
So
And what do you have to do to them?
I've got to be more delicate.
Okay.
And I've got to take more time and patience, which is really interesting. So the knot before was much bigger. This one is much smaller. And it's quite fine. It's almost like I need chopsticks or tweezers even to untangle. So there's only a small section that's left.
So fix it.
I almost feel like I need to go like this. I'm untangling it right now. It's quite big when I've untangled it. It's pretty big. It reminds me of like a colon in the body.
Right.
That's what it reminds me of. A colon, what it would be it's a couple of the size of a couple of soccer fields, isn't it?
Yep.
That's what it feels like.
And is it done?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go back to that moment in time, that
Yeah.
second that decision was made when you were standing, the phone was in your hand.
Yeah.
And tell me what you're feeling now.
Like relief. I actually feel like my fingers and my shoulders as well, my fingers and my shoulders, and strangely my legs, it actually feels like when people talk about a weight lifted off your shoulders, that's exactly what it feels like.
Feels like that?
Yeah,
Isn't
it
that
actually feels
cool?
like a release almost.
release.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So now let's go forward
Okay.
to the next time, because you know that there's going to be a next time where you have that 1, 2, 3 jump.
Yeah.
And the next time that it would have been a 1, 2, 3 stop, and that would have happened, let's see what happens now.
Okay.
Are you there?
There's going to be a few of these moments when I have to do the 1, 2, 3. There's not a knot there.
Okay.
I start to untangle the knot before there's a knot. So I'm always preempting the fact that there will be a blockage of some description.
Right.
and I'm proactively thinking I'm going to untangle it before it even starts.
Okay. So you're untangling it before it even starts, so it didn't even start?
So it didn't even start.
So it didn't even start.
But
so
I'm
what's
ready.
There?
I can still, again, visually it looks like a colon. But it's there. But
so 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And now?
It's open.
Okay.
I can see what would have been like a hurdle, or it would have stopped me because
So let's
it would
get
have pulled
excited.
me back.
Let's go 3 years into the future. Okay. And now just turn around and look back at us.
Yeah.
And look at all those times where you would have gone 1, 2, 3, stop.
Yeah.
Are there any?
No, because I'm realizing that there's things that I need to do in order for that hurdle or blockage or not to happen. I think there's still going to be some though. I think there's still going to be some challenges.
There's always going to be some challenges.
Always. But it's almost like I know that they're going to happen. So I'm almost, my hands are almost ready like a surgeon. They're almost ready to untangle something that hasn't even tangled yet. So it's almost like it's...
Okay, so is that something you need to do?
Yeah, I think you need to be ready.
Need to be ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel that would help me because I know I've done it once before, so I can do it again.
Yep.
It makes complete sense. I just need to I think this left part that I was talking to you about, the part where I need to almost use the tweezers, which is a really interesting visualization. I think that's the part that would be, I think that's the most important part.
Okay.
This part's the easy part. It's the little sections that are left, the tiny hurdle. I think the big hurdles are not that big.
Right.
I think it's sometimes the tiny hurdles that stop you.
Okay. So how are you feeling now?
It's an interesting concept, and it's interesting that it was described in a particular way. It feels good because you know that those roadblocks are going to come. You're going to keep falling and stumbling, but it's almost knowing that they're going to be and then being ready. You know, it's actually being ready to, if something happens, it's actually no more. That's okay. I can cope with it. Done it before. Done it before. I can do it again. And it's not going to kill us. That's the thing. I need to get some tweezers though now. I've realised I think I might need to get some metaphoric and physical tweezers to ready to untangle, just in case. That's a strange feeling. A really strange feeling.
It's different, isn't it?
Very different, yes. I can highly recommend it though.
Can you?
Yeah. Because it gets you to stop.
Yeah.
It gets you to pause, and particularly for those people that are used to always going, always on the go, like most of us, you know, that's what our everyday life's like. When do we ever stop and pause and do something like that? Apart from if you go for
a ride in a smart car.
Exactly. Everybody needs to come for a ride in a smart car and start untangling and getting tweezers out. But yeah, most people don't stop and pause.
No.
And that's the whole point, I think, of life, is that it just gets so busy and so hectic. And I think we just get used to coping. You know, we talk a lot about coping strategies. We get so used to coping with things, but we're not actually dealing with them. We're just coping. So it was interesting to stop and pause.
Good.
I like
I'm
the
glad
stop
you
and pause.
enjoyed it.
I did, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I like the stop and pause.
Now tell everybody about what you do, and if they want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, firstly, thank you everybody for listening and for watching. That was an amazing experience. I can highly recommend it. So the Clariti Group, we basically help people find and climb their own Everest.
Oh.
So we move people from where they are right now to where they need to be. So in business, we work a lot with business people. We work a lot with leaders as well. We're here and overseas, and we basically move people we guide them. We're like Sherpas. For those of you that have been on mountains, we're like business
What type
Sherpas.
of people? business people?
Businesses, yeah, but also individuals as well. Individuals that are maybe stuck where they are right now and where they want to move on to. But we've got a business and education background, so we approach it, we're not psychologists, but we approach it from a very different angle, that we help people not to find their why, but when they've found the why, to execute it and to make it happen. Because that's some of the biggest things that we find is a lot of people know what they want, or they have an idea of what they want, they just don't know how to get there. So we actually work with leaders, we work with individuals, and we work with businesses, and we've put this amazing framework across what they want to do. It's very individualized. We basically move them from where they are now and guide them as a Sherpa to where they need to be.
As a Sherpa to where they need to be.
So business Sherpas, I suppose you could call us. So yeah, that's what myself and my team do, and we love it. Absolutely love it. It's the best. I don't even call it a job. I don't even call it work. So yeah, if people want to get in touch, then please, they can contact us on Clariti Group website. Clariti with an I, not a Y, because we're special.
Right.
Or they can connect on Facebook as well, and connect through yourself and LinkedIn. But just have a conversation with us. Yeah, just come and have a conversation with us. Let us learn about your journey as well. And we do a podcast and different things. So it doesn't have to all be about business. Sometimes we just want to connect with people, learn about what they do, and create some synergies and opportunities. So would love to connect with people.
Sounds cool.
Thank you.
Belinda Jane, thank you. This has been the easiest interview. I really haven't had to say much, you know that, don't you? But you are great fun to talk to, and I really enjoyed this.
Thank you for your time as well. What a great thing you're doing, and I can highly recommend it. I absolutely loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Good.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Ready to go again?